Hello and welcome to my channel In Search of Wonder. My name is Anne, and today in this video we are going to be recapping what I read in September. If you've been here for a while, you know that I usually am drinking coffee. Today I am drinking an Olipop watermelon lime, which sounded kind of good, and I guess it is, but there's some other taste in here that I'm trying to pinpoint that's not watermelon or lime, or maybe it's just the combination of the two is giving me some other kind of flavor vibe. I don't know. It's interesting, but it's not terrible. So that's what I'm drinking. It is a very warm October 1st here as I'm filming this, and I just want to go over what I read for September. And honestly, this shouldn't take long. Famous last words. It shouldn't take long because I read, ladies and gentlemen, the grand total of 5 books in September, which is half of what is typical for me in a month, or about half, maybe slightly more than half. So yeah, it was not a typical month for me in terms of reading. It was a bit of a bummer month. I've had a lot of those this year. This year has been rough for me in terms of reading. It's just kind of been a rough year in a lot of ways, but that's okay. I did read some things. So we're going to talk about what I read and how it fit into my various challenges that I'm doing, as well as how I did on my goals, like what I planned to read versus what actually happened. So to begin with, let me refresh my memory what I read in the first place, because yeah, I need to pull out my other journal for that. So before I do that, let me show you real quick. I'm filming this from my car, by the way, because I have been chauffeuring this year more than I ever have in my life, which is ironic considering that my son got his license. But the thing is, he doesn't have his own car. And even if he did have his own car, it wouldn't make sense for him to drive it half the time because we go to school together. And so my chauffeuring is usually taking him either to work or to other things after school. And it's just because his schedule is so different from the rest of our schedule, I'm like having to bring him to these places. Again, like I said, even if he had a car, it wouldn't make sense because then he'd have to drive his car separately to school and then separately to anyway. I'm just chauffeuring a lot. So right now I'm waiting for him so that I can chauffeur him to the next location. Anyway, this is my book tracker for the year, and you can see the gold books. I started here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So can I read in October, November, December, the rest of the books to finish my goal? I think so, but we'll see. And then let me go through real quick the actual titles of the books that I read in September, beginning with The Pioneer Girl by Laura Ingalls Wilder. That was her autobiography that she wrote. She actually wrote that prior to the Little House on the Prairie series, and they tried to get it published, but in its autobiographical form, it wasn't as popular with publishers, and she and her daughter were having trouble getting it published. So that's when they started rewriting it as a children's series, and that sold quickly and was a bestseller. So then that autobiography kind of got put on the back burner for decades, until it was rediscovered and then republished with annotations and additional information and edits and everything. So that was very interesting. I actually started it in August and I was reading it for the Prairie Trail Readathon, but then I didn't finish it until the beginning of September. So that counts as a September read. And I gave it 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. It was fascinating and interesting, and I enjoyed all the annotations and additional information from the editor. And I enjoyed Laura Ingalls Wilder's, her style of writing and the stories that she told. I enjoyed that experience thoroughly. And then the next book I read was Every Hour Until Then. So just reading from my journal pages here. Every Hour Until Then by Gabrielle Meyer. It was the 5th book in her Timeless series, Really enjoyed that. It had Jack the Ripper as a character, and that's an interesting time of history for me. I find it intriguing. And so I really enjoyed it. I thought it was well done. She always has some great twists in her stories in the Timeless series, and this one was no exception. And I always think like, okay, how can she top the last one? How can she, you know, do another one that's just as good, if not better? And every time she blows me away. And then I buddy read A Fall of Marigolds with Alma, and we both really enjoyed our experience with that book. It is a dual timeline, and one timeline is reliving 9/11, which was kind of hard, especially as we were reading it during that time of the month. And also there's a historic timeline dealing with a tragedy that took place in 1911 in New York City, the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory fire. And there were parallels in those experiences for our two main characters who are fictional, but the events were historical events that happened in the story. So it was very good. I enjoyed the comparison of the two characters and their timelines and the things that they experienced within their struggles. It wasn't a perfect book. I gave it 4 stars, but it was very good and I enjoyed it. And then for Shaketember, I read As You Like It by Shakespeare, and it was not my favorite comedy by Shakespeare. It's probably his most well-known comedy, but it wasn't my favorite. I don't know. It didn't grab me. It didn't particularly, I don't know. It was fine. It was great. I would probably enjoy seeing a play of it. That would be fun. I would have no objection to seeing that. In fact, if it's, you know, ever playing locally, I wouldn't mind, but it just wasn't my favorite. So I gave it 3.5 stars. And then I finished up the month with The Lady with the Dark Hair. I just finished that earlier this week, and that was by Erin Bartels. And I was ultimately pretty disappointed with that one. The writing was fine, and the story itself was fine, and the topic was very interesting. We had an artist, and there's a bit of a mystery about who the artist was and the details of their life and everything. So the story, there's dual timeline, and so the more contemporary timeline is trying to find out the secrets of the historic timeline and find more information about that artist. And so that aspect of it was interesting. The discussion of the actual painting process and the colors and the paints and all of that stuff I found very interesting, and I enjoyed that aspect of it. I just primarily was disappointed. It was a personal reaction to the book itself. It wasn't objectively necessarily like in terms of writing, storyline, etc. I think a lot of people would really enjoy it. It was just my personal enjoyment of the book. I was disappointed because it was published by a Christian publishing company, written by a Christian, but the themes were not Christian at all. And I felt like it could have been a really good opportunity to really speak truth in a beautiful way into the themes of identity and purpose and meaning in life. And it was a failed opportunity, in my opinion, on the part of the author, because it didn't end up giving the hope and joy that I thought could have been brought into the book. So it was not a favorite of mine personally. So those are the books I read, the 5 books that I managed to finish in September. So how does that do with my goals? Well, I have a goal to read some nonfiction in 2025. And so Pioneer Girl gets added to that list. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And my goal is to read 12 every year. That's my, I would love to read more than that, but that's like my minimum goal. So I'm getting there. And I have 3 more months to read 2 more nonfiction books. So that's doing okay. I did not do any rereads from my reread goal list, even though, yeah, I had 1 or 2 on there. I did not read anything on my 50 by 50. My goal is to read half the books that I read this year be from my shelf. And I'm just killing that goal right now, okay? Because I've read not even 70 books, I don't think. And I have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 39 of them are from my shelf. So that's awesome. I'm really enjoying that. For my Reading the Classics challenge, I read As You Like It. That was for the Shakespeare prompt. And for the scavenger hunt, we were supposed to find a love story, a mistaken identity, and a song. And there were multiple songs in this one that were sung by like minstrels, but also various characters. Some of them were actually kind of funny. And then there was mistaken identity. There was the character, Rosalind was pretending to be Ganymede. And I think she was the only one that was a mistaken character. I mean, mistaken identity, like she purposely pretended to be someone else, but. And then a love story. There were actually multiple love stories happening in that book, in that play. It's layers on layers actually there. So I actually got all of those scavenger hunts. I have not been able to do that every time, so that was nice. For Chantel's Read Your Shelf challenge, the September prompt was travel. And so The Lady with the Dark Hair by Erin Bartels, that one fit that prompt because the characters, they traveled all throughout Europe, France and Spain, and they also went into Morocco and Gibraltar, etc. So, and also that was in the historic timeline. And in the contemporary timeline, that character, she also traveled to Gibraltar. So 5-star reads, I had 2. So even though it was a lower reading month, it was a high quality reading month because 2 out of those 5 books I gave 5 stars. Pioneer Girl and Every Hour Until Then by Gabrielle Meyer. Both got 5 stars from me. So I cannot complain about that. For Jane Reed's Christian Fiction Reading Challenge, the September prompt was to read a book in a series. And so I read Every Hour Until Then by Gabrielle Meyer. And I am now up to date on that series until her next one comes out very soon here. And then I'll be behind again. For Celebrating Jane Austen, sadly, I was supposed to read Persuasion. And I did start Persuasion. And I'm more than halfway through. But it is October 1st and I am not finished with it yet. So I will finish it, but it's not done yet. And in the traveling around the United States, these gold states are the ones that I added in September. Wisconsin and Iowa, and that is due to Pioneer Girl and the Ingalls family and all of their travels. A lot of them I had already colored in. All those orange ones are from the Prairie Trail Readathon and the travels that those characters did in those books and stories. But the Ingalls family added Wisconsin and Iowa to my list for me. And then because of the Lady with the Dark Hair, I also was able to color in Spain and Morocco. And Spain also includes Gibraltar and Catalonia, were the areas also that the characters went in Spain. So I colored in those as well. My book of the year, I think it was Charlene or Morgan. Someone told me earlier this year that they had a feeling that a Jane Austen book was going to win my book of the year. And I think they might be right because so far the finalist for the first quarter is Sense and Sensibility. The finalist for the second quarter is Pride and Prejudice. And now the finalist for the third quarter is Emma. So it's definitely turning out to be a Jane Austen square off. So yeah, my favorite for September though was Every Hour Until Then. So for Chantel's Autumn Bingo, I was able to color off 4 of these. So first of all, A Fall of Marigolds goes for orange on the cover because that cover has some orange. The marigolds are orange on the cover. That's by Susan Meissner. So that's one. And I have a whole bingo here. And then Creepy, I put Every Hour Until Then by Gabrielle Meyer because, oh my goodness, definitely some creepy elements in that story. Jack the Ripper, need we say more? For Atmospheric, that's maybe a little bit of a stretch. I put The Lady with the Dark Hair on there by Erin Bartel, but she does definitely very much create that atmosphere of the bohemian artistic community and the artist's life and the artist's eye and the eye for color and the eye for scene setting. She definitely creates that atmosphere very well. It may not be atmospheric in the typical sense that you think of it, but I thought it fit. So I put that one there. And then for Trees or Leaves, I put As You Like It by William Shakespeare because there is a very large pastoral element to that play. A lot of it takes place in the countryside and like the trees, Orlando goes around nailing poems about Rosalind onto all the trees. So it definitely fits that prompt. So for Shaketember, I read As You Like It. And for the framed readathon, I read The Lady with the Dark Hair because, as I said, it is all about art and artists and paintings. And that was great. For series September, I failed. I totally and utterly failed. The only book that I read for series September was Every Hour Until Then. And I had big dreams of tackling, I don't know, I had 5 or 6 series that I wanted to continue on in September. My reading life just fell apart, and I did not get to anything except for Every Hour Until Then. So Every Hour Until Then does fit some of these prompts. Like, it fits moody and dark. It fits the blue tones for the cover. It does not fit forest or nature or illustrated. Bold type, maybe. Beautiful cover for sure. So I've got 3 definites. Fall colors on the cover, not really. Light academia vibes. I mean, the girl is an academic. Like, she's a researcher. But I wouldn't say that it's a light academia vibes. I mean, it's not really that kind of story. So, I mean, maybe. But then cozy vibes, not really. So, I failed at series September. I didn't get to any of the other series that I had wanted to. And I am a little bit bummed about that, honestly. But there's nothing I can do about it. And some of them I had checked out of the library. I may still end up reading if I want to mood read, or if I want to get started. I usually try to get the month started reading my must reads. So it's October 1st. I'm still trying to finish up Persuasion, but I also want to get started on my October reads. So I don't know. I'll probably save the mood reading for if I have time later in the month. So September did not go according to plan. I did read all my must reads. So that's good. Well, Persuasion I'm finishing up, but I will finish it. Otherwise, I did all of my must reads. For framed, I did read 1 book, so that counts. I was going to read The Year of Wonder for the month of September, listening to the classical music, and I just never did. It's really hard to incorporate like a new habit into your life, even for a short period of time, like temporarily, and I never did. So that's unfortunate. For Shaketember, I did participate by reading the As You Like It, which was my plan. I accomplished that goal. For series September, as I already said, that was a complete and utter fail. For Chantel's Autumn Bingo, I got 4 on there out of 9, so that's pretty good. I count that a success. I still have October and November to read other ones on that bingo board. And yeah, so the only one that I didn't finish with was the Jane Austen 250th birthday celebration, and I'm going to be finishing that soon. So even though, you know, I didn't get to all of the books that I wanted to read in September, I did get to all of the books that I really genuinely needed to read. Like, I had committed to read, either with other people or for certain challenges or whatever. And that's always nice. I always like to be able to cross those off the list and knock off those goals that I have. So even though, and none of them reached any like larger goals that I have necessarily, like my rereads or my reading authors to 0 or 50 by 50. So it wasn't stellar in that way either, but that was my September, and that was my reading. So how did your September reading go? Hopefully better than mine. Did you read everything that you needed to read? And did you read what you wanted to read? Did you get in some really good mood reading in September? What was your favorite read in September? I would really like to know. And let me know in the comments your answers to those questions. And let's keep chatting about our books that we read, and I will see you next time. Bye.